What piece of content do you love to tank the most? Is there a dungeon trial raid that you just love getting queued into as a tank? Well, let's answer this question because it can be pretty interesting to share our thoughts about it. Therefore, if you're a tank, you're free to tune in as well on the comment section below. So what piece of content do you love to tank the most? Well, if we go over this forum post, there have been quite a bit of replies on it. And I figured let me make a video on this because maybe on the YouTube community side of things, there's also people that are interested in discussing things concerning the game itself, in this case as being a tank. So honestly, if we go over this question, is there a dungeon trial raid that you just love getting queued into as a tank? I personally can only say that there's almost everything that I like is in the dungeons and raids themselves, because with trials there's only one issue I have with it. A lot of the times with trials, since it's two tanks going at the boss, you have issues where people are provoking the boss off of you. Like this happens to me sometimes, and it's usually when it's a sprout player for some reason, where they kind of want you to main tank, so I do it, and then somewhere halfway throughout the fight they randomly start provoking and then turning the boss towards the party. And then I, take the enemy back from the other tank. But it kind of looks goofy. Like, it always makes me wonder, are these people doing that to troll you? Or is it because they are worried of some reason where they're like, should I provoke here? And I'm like, you don't have to do anything. So that's why I don't usually like the trials. So these days I just rather join as a DPS when it comes down to trials, so I don't have to worry about any of that crap. The other tanks can worry about it at that point. But that's the only thing I don't particularly like, where a lot of content where you do need two tanks, it can get a little messy. That's why if I do tank, usually I prefer being the off tank, since I don't play those dumb games where I start provoking the boss off of the main tank just to annoy him. I just do my DPS attacks, so I don't do any enmity generation or hardly any at all, because I don't use my tank stance either. This happens as well, where they want me to main tank. I do it, and then a few minutes into the fight I see them put on the tank stance, start attacking the boss and provoking, and then it's like, okay dude, see, that's so annoying. So usually with dungeons and raids, where it's just one tank for the most part, that's where it's fun to me, because I can just focus on doing my job as pulling the enemies, and then the rest can do their job. But when it comes down to a favorite dungeon, I really love the Lost City of Amdapor. There's something about that music. It's so peaceful, man. It's so relaxing to play. I remember I loved it way back in the Realm Reborn times when it was just fresh content. By now I hardly see it ever unless I queue for it myself, but if it comes to the duty roulettes, I hardly ever see that dungeon pop. But when I do, it's always exciting to me because it's so nostalgic, where I'm like, oh man, I remember this dungeon. Another dungeon I really liked in the Realm Reborn days was Hawk Manor. You know, that haunted house scene. For some reason I really loved that. Tanking it as well. I mean, there's something about the aesthetics of it all that I really liked back in the day. Again, you hardly get into it through the duty roulette by now because it's old content. So if we go to the other expansions, what I like most dungeon wise, it's an interesting question with Heavensward. Let's see, with Heavensward I really like that one in the Sea of Clouds. I forgot the name, but maybe it rings some bells to you. It was some island dungeon where you have to jump back and forth through islands and avoid tornadoes. I really like that one in Heavensward. If it comes to Stormblood, I like Bardam's Metal a lot as well. That was just something unique about it the first time you played, especially with the second boss. That really stood out to me, and I really liked tanking it. But I noticed there, that was one of the first dungeons in Stormblood where if you pull too many enemies, sometimes the healer doesn't keep up right from the start and you all die. So I had to learn the hard way there that unless I use my invulnerability skill, I would have to, slow down in case the healer just can't keep up for whatever reason. So I always have to pay that in mind. And I've healed it a couple of times myself, and then, sometimes tanks do big pulls and I can keep up with it, but I do realize it really depends on whether they use their cooldowns in the right way. So if you have some tank that does a big pull, doesn't use any defense cooldown, no invulnerability, and he does the big pull there, yeah, he's gonna die. Like, it's no joke, it's just such a mess at that point. It looks kind of ridiculous in a way, but that happens at times. If we then go on to Shadowbringers, my favorite dungeon, what would it be? Because if we haven't even finished this expansion yet, so maybe in the next patch, the final one might be my favorite, but raid-wise I really love those. Those near automata raids are perfect to me. I love them. It's actually because of those raids I started playing the game. Like, no joke, I knew it existed for years. For some reason I never bothered playing it, but was after the raids in Final Fantasy XIV. I heard the music, I saw some of the enemy designs that I was like, this actually looks really awesome, so let me check out the game. And then I played the whole game from start to finish. Got all the endings from, you know, the difference. I think it goes from A, B, C, D, something like that. And you have even more than that, but they're usually just game over endings. So nothing that spectacular for the most part. Some of them are still kind of funny, but at least I got the main story done. So I do appreciate Shadowbringers, you know, teaching me about a game I hadn't played before. So it actually gave me something new to play. So I really liked playing that. Though I hardly tank those raids. You see, this is the downside I think with 24-man raids, is that it does take more time these days to get into the dungeon as a tank, I've noticed. It's probably because they only need 3 tanks. In the past it was like 6 tanks, because it was 2 each party. So yeah, you had 6 tanks, so it was more chance of getting into the dungeon as a tank. That has changed dramatically for the last few years by now. I don't even remember when they changed that around. It was somewhere where they were like, oh, it's only gonna be 1 tank from now on in those raids. In all raids from the start throughout all expansions by now. So that's the only downside I think, and usually I DPS that as well as a machinist because I like that. But if I get to tank it, it's exciting, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, all the boss designs as of the latest raids are fun. They give you something to do as the tank actually. Whereas in the old raids you do have like 1 main boss and then, you know, 3 tanks attacking it, and it's like, well, okay, somebody's got a main tank, I'm not gonna be the main tank it seems, so you do the job for the whole raid party, right? So at least by splitting us up more, it gives you a feeling like you're having to do something as a tank, and I appreciate that a lot, Square Enix. I like doing my job as a tank. So personally, as I said, all dungeons are fun to me, except for the trials, and I explained why. So I wonder if anybody else agrees with that, and what your favorite dungeon, trial, or raid would be as a tank. Maybe you could share some insights concerning a trial you like as a tank, and maybe I'll agree with it, or maybe I disagree, it doesn't really matter. But I might learn something from you as well as a player. So those are just my thoughts concerning this question that I figured would be fun to post on YouTube as well. So if you want to tune in on that, if you want to share your thoughts concerning this question, feel free to do so in the comment section below. And if you want to see more Final Fantasy XIV content on a regular basis, be sure to subscribe to his channel, and I'll talk to you in the next video.